The diplomatic ship Sol Dawn moved slowly through the darkness of space. Inside the ship, everything was quiet and calm. The crew members walked through the long hallways, checking their equipment and preparing themselves for something big. Today was the day they would meet with aliens for the first time in human history. Dr. Tae-young sat in the main control room, looking at the screen in front of him. His hands were steady, but his heart was beating fast. He was a scientist and had studied the stars for his whole life, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. Beside him stood Ji-woo, the language expert. Ji-woo had studied the Xantherian language for years, learning everything about how these aliens spoke and thought. At the door stood Dae-jun, the security officer. His eyes were sharp and watched everything around him. He had been trained to protect the team no matter what happened. "We are getting close to the station," the pilot said from his seat. His voice was calm and professional. The Sol Dawn began to slow down as the station Kepler 22 came into view. It was a large structure, built from silver metal that shined in the light of a nearby star. The station had been created by many different species working together. It was a place where different worlds could meet and talk. Dr. Tae-young took a deep breath. He looked at the small object that sat on the table next to him. It was a stone tablet, very old and very beautiful. The Xantherian people had sent a message before this meeting. They had promised to give the humans a gift that could change everything. The message said that the gift contained knowledge that humans needed. It was something that could help humanity move forward in space exploration. "We are ready," Ji-woo said, standing up from his chair. His face showed both excitement and worry. He had prepared for this moment for years, but now that it was here, he felt nervous. The ship docked with the station. The doors opened and Dr. Tae-young walked forward with his team. The station was strange and wonderful. The walls were smooth and clean. The lights came from places they could not see. Everything looked like it came from a world they did not understand. Then they entered the meeting room. Standing there was Vorthax. This was the Xantherian scholar. His body was long and thin, with skin that looked like it had small patterns all over it. His eyes were very large and shined with a bright blue color. When he saw the humans, he did not smile. Instead, he stood very still. "Welcome," Vorthax said. His voice was strange, like wind moving through trees. Ji-woo listened carefully and translated. "We have waited for humans to reach this point. You have traveled very far through the darkness." Dr. Tae-young stepped forward and bowed slightly. This was a sign of respect from his culture. "Thank you for meeting with us," he said. "We are honored to be here." Vorthax moved his long arm toward a table. On the table sat several tablets. They were made of stone that looked very old. The surface of each tablet was covered with strange marks and symbols. They looked like nothing that humans had ever seen before. "These are the records of our ancient people," Vorthax explained. "We have traveled the stars for many thousands of years. We have learned things that you could not learn in 1,000 lifetimes. But we are willing to share one thing with you. This gift is a formula for faster travel through space, a formula that will allow your kind to reach the stars." Dr. Tae-young felt his breath catch. This was beyond anything he had hoped for. Technology that could help humanity explore the universe. He walked toward the tablets and looked at them carefully. The symbols twisted and turned. They formed patterns that his mind could not quite understand. "You can read this," Vorthax said. It was not a question. It was a statement. "We will need to study it," Dr. Tae-young said slowly. "Our scientists will work to understand your script." "It is very simple," Vorthax said. "My people learned to read this before we were even 3 years old. It is the foundation of all knowledge." Dr. Tae-young nodded and did not say anything, but inside, he was already thinking about the task ahead. These symbols meant nothing to him, and if they were truly simple, then why could he not understand them? The meeting continued for several hours. Vorthak spoke about many things. He spoke about the history of his people and their travels through space. He spoke about the technology they had created. But every time Dr. Tae-young looked at the tablets, he felt confused. The symbols seemed to move and change when he looked at them. When the meeting ended, the team returned to their ship with the tablets. Dr. Tae-young carried them carefully as if they were the most precious things in the world. Because in a way they were. These tablets held knowledge that could change human history. That night, Dr. Tae-young sat alone in the research lab. The tablets sat in front of him, lit by bright white lights. He had tried many ways to read them. He had looked at them in different orders. He had tried to find patterns. He had even tried to match them with ancient human languages. Nothing worked. Min Seo, another scientist, entered the lab. She was tired from the long day of travel. She saw Dr. Tae-young sitting in front of the tablets with his head in his hands. "You are worried," she said. It was not a question. "The Xantharian said this was simple," Dr. Tae-young said. "But I cannot understand any of it, and if I cannot understand it, then how will our civilization move forward? How will we prove that humans can learn and grow?" Min Seo sat down next to him. She looked at the tablets quietly. "Maybe it is not as simple as we think," she said. "Maybe the Xantharians see things in a way that we do not." Dr. Tae-young knew she was right. But what could he do? He had studied languages and symbols his whole life. He was one of the smartest people in his nation, and yet, this simple gift was beyond his understanding. "We will solve this," Min Seo said with confidence. "We just need to think differently." As she left the lab, Dr. Tae-young looked back at the tablets. He picked one up and turned it over in his hands. He looked at it from every angle. The symbols were the same no matter how he looked at them. Or were they? He would not sleep that night. None of them would. The mystery of the Xantharian script had become the most important thing in the world. The research lab on the Sol Dawn had become a place of stress and confusion. 3 days had passed since the Xantharian scholar gave them the tablets. 3 days of work without rest. The walls were covered with papers. Different languages were written on every surface. Computer screens showed endless attempts to break the code of the alien script. Dr. Tae-young had not slept properly. His eyes were red and tired. His hair looked messy. He sat at the main table, surrounded by coffee cups and papers. Around him, other scientists worked just as hard. They typed on keyboards. They drew symbols on whiteboards. They talked to each other in frustrated voices. "This makes no sense," said one scientist named Ho Jun. He was pulling at his hair. "I have tried every code-breaking method I know. I have compared it to mathematical formulas. I have tried to match it with sound patterns. Nothing works. It is like the symbols are random, like they have no meaning at all." Jiwoo came into the lab carrying more reports. The linguist looked as tired as everyone else. "I contacted the Xantharian station again," he said slowly. "I asked Vorthax if he could give us more information about the script. He refused. He said that the meaning should be obvious to anyone with a good mind. He sounded insulted by my question." Dr. Tae-young put his head down on the table. He felt like a failure. Here he was, a smart scientist from Korea, and he could not read a simple gift from an alien race. What would this mean for humanity? What would other nations think? What would the news media say when they learned that humans could not understand the alien message? "Maybe we should try a different approach," said Min Seo. She had been working in the corner, looking at the tablets from different angles. Her voice was quiet, but clear. "We keep trying to read it the way we read everything else. But what if it is not meant to be read that way?" "What do you mean?" asked Dr. Tae-young, lifting his head. Min Seo walked over and picked up one of the tablets. She held it in front of her face and looked at it carefully. "Every time we look at it, we hold it this way," she said, showing how the tablet was positioned. "We read it from left to right, from top to bottom. This is how we have read things since we were children. But maybe the Xantherian people read things differently. Maybe they have a different direction. Maybe they have a different way of seeing." She turned the tablet slowly in her hands as she spoke. Then, without thinking much about it, she rotated the tablet completely upside down. She held it in front of Dr. Tae-young's face. For a moment, there was silence. Dr. Tae-young stared at the tablet. Then his eyes grew very wide. His mouth opened. He stood up so fast that his chair fell backward and hit the floor with a loud crash. "Wait," he whispered. "Wait! Wait! Wait!" He took the tablet from Min-seo's hands and looked at it carefully. The symbols that had looked so confusing and strange suddenly began to change. They still looked like the same marks, but now, when he looked at them upside down, they began to show something new. They began to look like something his mind could understand. "The symbols," Dr. Tae-young said slowly. "When they are upside down, they look like mathematical notation. This is the math formula that we have been working on in our universities. This is the equation for quantum jump calculations." Ho-jun came running over. "Let me see! Let me see!" he said excitedly. He looked at the tablet upside down and his face turned white. "It is true. It is actually true. Every symbol, every mark. It is all there. It is perfect. It is more than perfect. It is genius." The entire lab erupted in noise. Scientists started running around. They were picking up tablets and turning them upside down. Every tablet they looked at revealed new information, mathematical equations, scientific formulas, knowledge that humanity had been searching for since the beginning of time. Ji-woo was laughing and crying at the same time. "We have to tell Vorthax," he said. "We have to show him what we found." But Dr. Tae-young was not laughing. He was sitting very quietly, staring at the upside-down tablet. "No," he said slowly. "We should think about this first. We should understand what this means." "What do you mean?" asked Min-seo. "This is wonderful. This is the greatest discovery in human history." "Yes," Dr. Tae-young said, "but think about what this means about the Xantherian. Vorthax is a scholar. He is supposed to be one of the smartest beings in his civilization, yet he has been looking at these tablets right side up his whole life. He never thought to rotate them. He never thought to look at them from a different angle." He paused and looked at his team. The Xantherian have been traveling space for thousands of years. They have all this knowledge. But they have been missing something so simple, something so basic, just because they never thought to look at things differently. Min-seo sat down slowly. She began to understand what Dr. Tae-young was saying. "You think they do not know," she said. "I think they do not know," Dr. Tae-young agreed. "I think their civilization has been so focused on one way of seeing things that they have missed another way. And I think when we tell them, they will not believe us, or worse, they will feel ashamed." The lab became quiet. The excitement died down. These scientists had just made the greatest discovery in human history. But now they understood that this discovery meant something more. It meant that even the oldest and smartest civilizations could be blind to simple truths. "What should we do?" asked Ho-jun. Dr. Tae-young looked at the tablet in his hands. He looked at the symbols that only made sense when you turned them around. "We tell them," he said finally. "We show them what we have found. But we do it carefully. We do it with respect. Because we have just learned something very important about intelligence and wisdom." He turned to Ji-woo. "Contact Vorthax," he said. "Tell him we need to meet. Tell him we may have found something. But do not tell him what it is yet." As Ji-woo left the lab to send the message, Dr. Tae-young sat back down with the tablet. He looked at it upside down, and it made perfect sense. He looked at it right side up, and it made no sense at all. The tablet was the same. The knowledge was the same. but the perspective, the way you looked at it, made all the difference. He wondered what the Xantharian scholar would say when he learned the truth. He wondered if a being who had lived for so long could accept that they had been wrong. And he wondered what this moment would mean for the future between humanity and the Xantharian race. The meeting room on Station Kepler 22 was very large and very bright. The light came from everywhere, making shadows disappear. Dr. Tae-young walked in with Ji-woo and Hana, who was a young linguist with a sharp mind. They carried the stone tablet with them. Vorthax was waiting, along with 3 other Xantharian elders. These elder beings were even larger than Vorthax. Their skin showed many colors, like pictures painted on their bodies. Their eyes were ancient and wise, but also cold and certain. They seemed to believe that they already knew everything. "You have called us here urgently," said the oldest elder. His name was Keshivara, and his voice sounded like heavy thunder. "Do you have a problem with our gift?" Dr. Tae-young stepped forward. He felt nervous, but his voice stayed steady. "We have had a breakthrough," he said. "We believe we understand the script." Vorthax made a sound that was not quite laughter. "Impressive for your kind," he said, "though we did not expect it to take you so long. How much of the knowledge have you learned?" "All of it," said Hana. She was young and brave. "We have understood the entire formula." The 4 Xantharian were silent. Keshivara leaned forward slightly. "All of it?" he asked. "That is not possible. Even our brightest scholars take many months to learn the complete formula." "There is something we need to show you," Dr. Tae-young said. He placed the tablet on the table between them. It was positioned the normal way, right side up as the Xantharian would see it. "These symbols mean nothing to us," Keshivara said immediately. "We have already studied your failure to read our script." "Yes," Dr. Tae-young said. He took a breath. "Because you are looking at it the wrong way." The room became very quiet. The temperature seemed to drop. Vorthax's large eyes widened. "Explain," he demanded. Dr. Tae-young slowly reached forward and rotated the tablet. He turned it completely upside down. Then he pushed it back toward the Xantharian elders. For several seconds, nothing happened. The elders stared at the tablet. Vorthax bent closer, looking at the symbols with confusion. Then his entire body went rigid. His skin changed color, becoming lighter and lighter until it was almost white. "No," he said. His voice was very small. "No, this is not. You cannot." "It is there," Hana said gently. "Every equation, every formula, all of it. We have verified every calculation. It is perfect." Keshivara touched the tablet with one long finger. His hand trembled. "The script," he said very slowly. "The script is... it is dependent on perspective." "Yes," Dr. Tae-young said. "When viewed from one angle, it is meaningless. When viewed from another angle, it contains great wisdom." The second elder, a female named Jalis, made a strange sound. It might have been a cry or a gasp. "For 10,000 years, she said. For 10,000 years, we have studied these tablets. We have written thousands of papers about them. We have built our entire understanding of advanced physics on what we could read. And we have been looking at them upside down the entire time." "Not entirely," Dr. Tae-young said carefully. "You have understood some parts, but the most important parts, yes, those have been hidden because of perspective." Vorthax sat down very suddenly. He looked like his legs could not hold him anymore. "This is not possible," he said, but his voice did not sound sure. It sounded like he was trying to convince himself. "It is possible," Ji-woo said. He had been translating the Xantharian language, but now he spoke directly. "And it is true. We did not want to tell you in this way, but the evidence is clear. Your oldest knowledge, the foundation of your civilization, has been incomplete because you never thought to view it from a different angle. You are saying, Keshawara said slowly, that a younger species, a human species that has only just reached the stars, has shown us something that we could not see in all our thousands of years of study? Yes, said Dr. Tae Young. That is exactly what I am saying. The third elder, Mortek, made a sound like wind blowing. This is shame, he said. This is the greatest shame our people could experience. We have been the teachers of the galaxy. We have given knowledge to many worlds. And we have been incomplete in our understanding all along. Not incomplete, Hana said. She was still young and still brave, and her words showed no fear. Different. Your people understood these symbols from one perspective. Your understanding was not wrong. It was just not complete. Different perspectives add more understanding, not less. Two ways of seeing make the picture bigger, not smaller. Vorthax looked up at her. You defend us? He asked. I defend truth, Hana said. The truth is that every being, every civilization, every mind has limits on what it can see. Your people saw far more than most, but you could see only one angle. Humans, because we approach problems differently, could see another angle. Together, we see more than either of us could see alone. Dr. Tae Young nodded. We did not bring this to you to shame you, he said. We brought this to you because you are the only ones who might truly understand what this means. If knowledge can be hidden by perspective, what else might we all be missing? What other knowledge might be waiting, hidden in plain sight, just because we have never thought to look at it from a different direction? Keshawara sat back in his chair. His ancient eyes studied the humans for a long time. You are wise beyond your years, he finally said. All of you. You have taught us something that our greatest scholars could not see. Vorthax still looked troubled, but something in his expression was changing. He was beginning to accept the truth. What you say is true, he said quietly, and it is a lesson we needed to learn. Perhaps we have been too certain in our knowledge for too long. Perhaps we have forgotten how to see things in new ways. The room became silent again, but this time it was not a silence of shock. It was the silence of understanding, the silence of a very old civilization beginning to realize that they still had things to learn, and that a young species, barely reaching toward the stars, might be the ones to teach them. Dr. Tae Young looked at the upside-down tablet on the table, the symbols that made sense when viewed this way, and he realized that this moment would change history, not just for humanity, but for the entire galaxy. 3 weeks had passed since the meeting in which the humans showed the Xantharian elders the upside-down tablet. Things were changing quickly. The elders had decided something very important. They would open the great archives of Xantharian knowledge to the humans. No alien species had ever been allowed inside these archives before. Dr. Tae Young stood with his team inside a vast chamber deep within the station. The walls stretched so high he could not see the ceiling. Shelves made of strange metal held thousands upon thousands of tablets, all covered with the same mysterious script. Some tablets looked very new. Some looked ancient, their surfaces worn by time and handling. This is unbelievable, Min Seo whispered. She walked slowly, looking at everything around her. Her eyes were wide with wonder. This is the collected knowledge of our people, said Velka, a young Xantharian who had been assigned to help the human team. Velka was different from the older Xantharian. His skin still had bright colors, not yet faded by the centuries. His eyes were curious and open. He was eager to learn and eager to help the humans understand. 10,000 years of discovery, learning, and growth. All here. Jiwoo picked up a tablet carefully. Can we examine these? He asked. Yes, said Velka. The elders have given permission. But we should approach them with care. Some of these tablets are very old. They are fragile. Dr. Tae-young began to work with his team. They took one tablet at a time. They looked at it right side up. Then they rotated it upside down. What they found was amazing and sometimes shocking. The first tablet showed different content from each direction. The right side up version showed simple mathematical concepts. The upside down version showed complex physics calculations that built on those simple concepts. It was like the tablet had two layers of knowledge, each revealing a different part of truth. They knew, Ho-jun said. He was studying the tablets with intense focus. The ancient Xantharian people, they knew about this double perspective. Look at the way the symbols are designed. They are perfectly balanced. They are meant to be read from either direction. But why? Asked Hana. Why would they hide knowledge in this way? Why not just write it clearly? Velka looked thoughtful. I do not know, he said, but my people have forgotten. The knowledge that the ancients knew has been lost over centuries. Only the right side up reading remained. The upside down reading was forgotten. Dr. Tae-young examined another ancient tablet. This one was different from the others. The symbols seemed to dance and flow. When he looked at it upside down, he gasped. This one has 3 readable angles, he said. Look, here and here and here. You can read it from 3 completely different directions. Minseo came and looked over his shoulder. Each direction tells a different part of a bigger story, she said. It is like seeing an object from the left, from the right, and from above. Each view shows something that the other views do not show. Over the following days, the team made discovery after discovery. They found that many tablets had this hidden information. They found that the oldest tablets were the most complex, with knowledge hidden in multiple angles and perspectives. But the newer tablets, made in more recent Xantharian history, only had one readable angle. The knowledge of how to read from multiple perspectives had been lost. How could this happen? Asked Dae-jun. The security officer had become interested in the historical mystery. How could an entire civilization forget how to read their own language? Slowly, said Velka quietly. I think it happened very slowly. One generation, the scholars knew about both ways of reading, but then, in the next generation, maybe only some scholars knew, and in the next generation, maybe only a few, and then finally, nobody remembered. By the time our recorded history begins, only one way of reading was known, and no one questioned it. Dr. Tae-young felt something he had never expected to feel. He felt pity for the Xantharian. Despite their great age and their vast knowledge, they had become limited by their own certainty. They had forgotten to question. They had forgotten to explore different angles. The younger Xantharian, he said to Velka, are there others like you? Others who are willing to think differently? Yes, said Velka. Many of us wonder about the old ways. We read the ancient texts, and we sense that something is missing. But we did not know what. Then we should teach them, said Hana. She was excited now. We should teach them how we approach problems. We should show them how humans think about things. Over the next few weeks, that is exactly what they did. Dr. Tae-young and his team worked together with Velka and other young Xantharian scholars. They taught them how to look at problems from many angles. They taught them to ask questions. They taught them to be humble about what they thought they knew. In return, the Xantharian taught the humans about the vast knowledge they had accumulated. They explained the physics behind space travel. They shared medical discoveries that had taken thousands of years to develop. They gave humanity gifts of knowledge that would have taken decades or centuries to discover alone. But something even more important was happening. The young Xantharian were beginning to question their old ways. They began to look at ancient texts with fresh eyes. They began to wonder what else might be hidden. They began to think like scientists should think, with curiosity and without certainty. One evening, Dr. Tae Young sat with Velka in a quiet part of the archive. The young Xantharian looked up at a shelf of ancient tablets. "Thank you," Velka said. "Thank you for showing us what we could not see." "You are not responsible for what your ancestors forgot," Dr. Tae Young said gently. "But you are responsible for what you learn now, and what you teach others. You can help your people remember how to see from many angles." Velka nodded slowly. "I will," he said. "I want to. I want my people to grow again. I want us to remember that there is always more to learn." Dr. Tae Young smiled. He thought about how this journey had started. It had started with a failure, with symbols he could not read, with a problem that seemed impossible to solve. But that failure had led to something beautiful. It had brought two civilizations together, and it had reminded them both that the greatest discoveries often come when you look at something from a direction you have never tried before. 2 months had passed, and Dr. Tae Young stood in the archives again. But this time, he was not studying the ancient tablets. He was studying something much older, something that the team had discovered while searching through the deepest levels of the Xantharian archives. It was a single tablet, carved from stone that looked almost like crystal. The surface was smooth and perfect, as if it had been made with incredible skill and care. The symbols on this tablet were different from all the others. They were simpler, yet somehow more complex at the same time. And they glowed with a faint light. "What do you think?" asked Hana. She stood beside him, looking at the tablet with wonder. Dr. Tae Young turned the tablet slowly in his hands. When he looked at it from one angle, he saw mathematical symbols. When he rotated it slightly, he saw something different. When he turned it further, he saw something else again. The tablet contained not 2 versions of knowledge, but many versions. 7, to be exact. "This is not a formula," Dr. Tae Young said slowly. "This is a message." Jiwoo came over. The translator had become better and better at reading the script as the weeks passed. Now he could understand both the right-side-up and upside-down readings instantly. "A message from whom?" he asked. "From the ancients," said Min Seo, who had also been studying this special tablet. "Look at the way it is made. Look at how perfect it is. The creators of this tablet were not trying to hide knowledge. They were trying to teach something. They were trying to show that there is always more than one way to see truth." Dr. Tae Young read the tablet from each angle, with Jiwoo's help translating. From one angle, it said, "Truth has many faces." From another angle, it read, "Wisdom comes from seeing with many eyes." From yet another angle, "The strongest mind is the one that questions its own seeing." And so it continued. Over the next week, Dr. Tae Young and his team studied this crystal tablet very carefully. They compared it to other ancient tablets. They found references to it in very old texts, and they began to understand something profound. The Xantharian civilization had been founded by explorers and adventurers who understood something very important. They understood that knowledge was not a fixed thing. Knowledge was like light. Light could be split into many colors. Each color revealed different truth. But together, all the colors made white light. Together, they showed the complete picture. The founders had created tablets that worked the same way, but over thousands of years the Xantharian had become too comfortable. They had stopped exploring. They had stopped questioning. They had learned the simple way to read their script, and they had forgotten that there was always more to find. "This is what the ancient Xantharian were trying to teach," Velka said. He had been helping them study. "They were trying to teach that intelligence is not about knowing everything. Intelligence is about being willing to see differently." Dr. Tae Young brought his findings to the Elder Council. Keshvara and the other elders listened very carefully. When he finished, there was a long silence. "Our ancestors created these tablets as a test," Keshvara finally said. His ancient voice was quiet. "Not a test to see if we could read them. a test to see if we could think beyond ourselves, a test to see if we could remember that every perspective adds something. And for 10,000 years, we failed this test. Until now, said Vorthax. The scholar had changed greatly in these months. He had become humble. He had become willing to learn. We failed the test until a young species from a distant world showed us what we could not see. There is something else, said Dr. Tae-young. He paused, gathering his thoughts. I do not think your ancestors created these tablets just to test the Xantharian. I think they created them for anyone who might find them. I think they were trying to teach the galaxy something important. What is that? Asked Jalis. That no single perspective is complete, Dr. Tae-young said. That every being, every species, every civilization has limits on what it can understand. That true knowledge comes not from being smart or powerful, but from being willing to see through other eyes, from being willing to accept that you might be wrong, from being willing to learn from anyone, even from species you think are beneath you. The council members looked at each other. Some of them looked ashamed, some looked thoughtful, and some, particularly the younger ones who had come to watch, looked inspired. Your ancestors, Dr. Tae-young continued, were trying to teach us all. They were saying, always ask yourself, am I looking at this the right way? Always be willing to turn things upside down. Always stay curious. Always stay humble. Keshawara stood up slowly. He was very ancient, and his movements were stiff, but his eyes were clear. We have been reminded of our own wisdom, he said, by a young species that did not know our history, did not know our pride, and did not accept that our way was the only way. This is fitting. This is the lesson we needed to learn. The elder walked toward Dr. Tae-young and extended his long hand. Dr. Tae-young understood. He took the hand. The Xantharian's skin felt dry and cool, but his grip was firm. Your people will be welcome in our archives forever, Keshawara said. And we will welcome you as partners, not as younger students learning from older teachers, because we have learned that the greatest teachers are often those who see things we cannot see. News of the discovery spread quickly through the Xantharian civilization. Young scholars began to look at old texts with fresh minds. They began to explore different angles and perspectives. They began to ask questions that had not been asked in thousands of years. The message of the ancient tablets, which had been hidden by the civilization's own certainty, was finally understood. And they understood it not because they were smarter or more advanced. They understood it because they had learned humility. They had learned to accept that they could be wrong. They had learned from humans who approached problems in completely different ways. Dr. Tae-young stood once more in the archives, looking at the glowing crystal tablet. The tablet that held the message of the ancients. The tablet that had changed everything. We did not discover this, he said to his team. We uncovered it. It was always here. They just needed someone willing to look at it differently.